Bang ding ding, trademark. He come out 6'7" tall. Bang ding ding, one is star. Bang dong ding dong ding dong ding dong ding dong ding dong ding. It is a perfect day.
Woke up to the sound of the garbage truck again. Upstairs neighbor's toilet's leaking on my head. And cars broke down, I missed the bus, there runs a 10. I had a feeling this was a day to stay in bed. I finally left my pad right on the jumbo's cloud roof. A police officer pulled out his gun and said, I said, so you got the wrong guy. I guess it's just a perfect day. It's just a perfect day. Na, na, na,
Hey guys, welcome back to another great episode of Eggs. Today is kind of an interesting one. We're it's Christmas Eve. So we are going to do kind of a recap of some of our favorite episodes and kind of go over the fact that we're about to do our annual Eggy Awards. So Ryan is in Pocatello and I'm in Pocatello, but we're not in person because of COVID. But we're doing it via Zoom, and here we are. Merry Christmas, Ryan.
Yeah, you too, Mike. So yeah, like Mike said, basically we're coming up on the Christmas Eve holiday. Big Eggy Award show coming up next week, which is something we obviously look forward to every year. For people who are listeners to the show and who have been with us for a couple of years, you've probably seen those episodes pop up, and they're a lot of fun because we sort of do a little retrospective on the year, and we go back and we look at some of the best and brightest episodes, and come up with some categories, do kind of the Oscars of the Eggs show kind of thing, and so it's a lot of fun, and it gives us some time to kind of go back and reminisce. And this year, I would say, just like the last couple, there's been a lot of things that I'm really proud of, a lot of improvement that's happened. Our guests are amazing. Like, I couldn't be more happy with the way things are moving along. So I'm super grateful for for you guys, the listeners, and for Mike for all that he's put up with this year with COVID, and having to try and work out this show basically fully apart for a year. It was a different experience than we've been used to the prior couple of years. So anyway, so I'm glad to be doing this, and I'm looking forward to getting started on the nominees. Not unlike, the award shows you see on TV, the Emmys, the Oscars, the whatevers. The Aggies have categories, and within each category, we have a few different people. These obviously are, in our opinion, some of the best and brightest shows of the year, but we no doubt didn't get everyone. So if you didn't hear your name on the list, don't be bummed out, because if you made air, we were satisfied with your show, because there are shows that don't make the air. So
don't tell them that.
That's right. So anyway, so I guess I'll kick it off with our first category, which is authors. So in this category, as is pretty obvious by the title, we've included a few people who came on the show either to promote a book or who had been authors of books prior. And I think we had a couple exciting shows or interesting shows this year. Actually, we had several of them. But the first nominee in the authors category is Jay Massey. Back on episode 147, he came on. He was the founder of cashflowdiary.com and the cash flow diary system for, actually developing cash flow. It was a really great conversation, interesting guy, and definitely worth a listen. The second nominee in that category is Chris Tabish. Chris was the author of a book called Comediology, which is basically taking his prior career as a stand-up comedian and mushing it together with his career as a consultant, and created sort of a fun book where you could apply stand-up principles to business. And, again, interesting episode. He was episode number 143. So feel free to go back and give him a quick listen. The final candidate or final nominee in this category was Steve Gordon. He is the CEO of Unstoppable Agency. They are an agency that basically uses podcasting or leverages podcasting as a way to promote your business. He is also a author who has written books on the subject, and also a very interesting conversation. He was episode 150, if you'd like to go back and take a listen to him. So that is our authors category.
Yeah. The next category is tech. We had some really good people on this year that in this department. First one is Moesha Boykin Anderson, and she is the CEO of Tech Solutions. And it was a really good conversation. I enjoyed talking with her. Covered a lot of just real life scenarios. I think she was a single mom coming out, losing a job, and was able to build her company from the ground up after losing a job. So it was a really good conversation.
Yeah, I thought she was really interesting too. She was one of our few guests who not only was she, CEO and founder of a company, she's female, obviously, and also an African-American woman. And so she had overcome so much in her life and business and career. I mean, it really is an inspirational story.
Yeah. Next on the list is Brian Gill. He is the chairman at Gillware, and that is episode 165. And to be honest with you, I can't really remember this episode.
No, you can, because he was your pick. He was the guy that helped us out with all the hard drive security and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right.
And
yes.
so,
no, I really enjoyed this conversation, actually. Sorry, Brian.
And I think actually he may have received a hard drive from you at some point in the
I actually never sent it. I totally spaced it.
Oh, yeah. God, you got to follow up on it.
Yeah.
No, anyway. Yeah. Brian was an incredible guy too. I think a really good conversation about security online, because you just kind of don't realize, I guess how at risk you are. So there was a lot of interesting things in that conversation.
And last in the tech category is David Watts. He's the CEO of Handywritten, and I actually really enjoyed this conversation a lot, just because of the process he went through in building up not only the platform but also the hardware to be able to do handwritten notes and send actual letters to people via computer and have it print in handwriting with a real pen. So that was just really interesting to hear the process of not only developing the software behind it, but developing the hardware to be able to move a pen and have it write for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that was a great category. And obviously that's going to be an interesting category. The competition is fierce. So as they are in all these categories. So the next one is marketing. And, like I said, sort of at the top of this, we had so many people on who could fit into so many of these buckets. Obviously as a matter of practicality, we have to narrow it down a little bit. But there are a lot of people that would have been great for this category. But the nominees for this year's Eggy Award show, anyway, include Carmen Pyrie. He was the founder at Kula Partners, episode 168. He was a really interesting guy, had a great take on business. We had a nice conversation about value-based pricing, and the author David C. Baker, who's a really influential guy in that space. It was a lot of fun. He also happened to be from Nova Scotia, and I happen to have a really bad Nova Scotian accent that I will put on to make my kids laugh sometimes. So definitely stood out in my mind. So the second nominee in this category is Greg Hickman. He was the CEO of Alt Agency, and this episode was interesting for a couple of reasons. One was that Mike wasn't there, unfortunately, and so it was one of the episodes I did while Mike was out of town working in Nome, and we had run out of our backlog and needed to do the show. So we went ahead and did that one with Greg. He gave us a ton of really applicable information, not just for people in the marketing business, for really anybody who owns a business. And I think it was a great show that you guys should check out. It was episode 151.
Yeah, and that was one that I actually reached out to him initially, so it was kind of sad that I wasn't able to be part of that one.
Yeah, and I just screwed up the number. It's actually episode 173. But yeah, no, that's what's so funny about it. Mike had hit up Greg on Instagram or someplace, and had actually negotiated the whole conversation and everything himself. Like Mike had sort of set that one up for the show. And then, when it came time to do it, Mike was unavailable, or we couldn't do it. I can't remember if there was a technical problem or whatever, but for one reason or another, I ended up having to do that one alone. And, of all the 88 shows that we've got out at this point, there's really, I think maybe 2 where we didn't do the show together.
Yeah.
So that's an oddity. So, but anyway, so great category. The next guy and the final nominee in that category is Ritus Purins. He was the head of marketing at Printful. Printful is a on-demand printing company. They do T-shirts and gift type stuff, all kinds of things. I mean, basically, I became aware of their company because I used their company to manufacture all the clothing for a company that I had at one point. And so, but really interesting conversation. They too, not unlike what Mike was saying about David Wax and the tech category, Ritus and what they're doing over at Printful. It was really interesting to get into the conversation of not just what they do day to day, but also the technology that put it all together. Because there's, it's a pretty deep rabbit hole, that stuff that they're doing, and it's very complex. And to be able to manage print on demand shipping and everything else from their multiple locations all over the country and planet, and do a good product and everything. I mean, it's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, and I actually, with his episode, I think if I remember correctly, he was in like Sweden or Norway or some halfway around the world where he had to stay up until like 2 a.m. to have the conversation with us. So he was like on no sleep and made specific time and came back into the office just to be able to talk with us. So it was kind of a not only was it good, a conversation and topic to talk about, it was nice of him to go the extra effort just to be on the show. So
yeah, no, amazing. So another great category. We look forward to sharing the winners coming up on the Aggies next week, next Thursday. We will launch the Aggies show, and you'll be able to hear the winners of all these categories, including the next one.
The next one is finance, and we had. I think we had more than just these three this year that was on the topic of finance because God knows both Ryan and I need help with this.
Well, yeah, I mean, for people who don't know us personally, if you really start digging into the kinds of guests we have on, you can always tell what's wrong with us. So whatever it is that Mike and I need to improve in our life, we end up finding guests that happen to be experts in those fields. So, and finance is an interesting one in particular. I mean, of course, for purposes of this show and for the Aggies, we narrowed it down to 3, but like Mike said, God, there had to be a dozen financial experts this year that came on, maybe more than we've ever done, actually. Yeah. Talking about all sorts of different aspects of finance, from different investment tools to how to start a business and make sure you're fiscally sound when running it, and how to
buying
invest,
and selling
in
your
different
business.
Technologies. Really incredible stuff. So this was a tough category to choose from. I think we landed on some good candidates, but yeah, this was a hard category.
And first on this list is John Stoy. He's the founder of Verbatim Financial, and he's actually kind of turned into a good friend. We've been staying in touch. I've helped him with some audio editing, and he's just a good dude all around. So not only was the conversation great, the relationship has turned into something cool. So thanks, John.
Yeah, the next one in that bucket or in that category is Derek Van Ness. This was one that actually Mike reminded me of and pointed out. He's a wealth strategist. He speaks on a number of different financial tools and things like that. But I think, at least as I recall it, he had a way about him that didn't feel like he was trying to put you into some kind of category of investment, for example. You should put all your money in X, Y, or Z or something. I felt like he had a really pragmatic approach to finance and did a good job sort of articulating, these are some of the tools, these are some of the ways, but, sort of help you, I guess, find confidence in what you might choose to do financially. So I really enjoyed that show with Derek.
Yeah, he was an open book, and he had a lot of good, just general knowledge for us. And third person in that category is Mark Willis. He's the author and owner of Lake Growth Financial. He's episode 158. And he actually is another really good conversation. He talked about the investing in insurance and using life insurance policy to essentially take over your banking. And that was something that I was kind of interested in. So I was happy to have the conversation with him. And yeah, that's our finance department, John, Derek, and Mark.
Well, and like we said moments ago, I mean, that really was a difficult category to choose from because we had so many other financial experts on that were I mean, just from all kinds of different walks of life and stuff. And I'm really grateful for all that we learned about, sort of consumer and business finance this year. It was a great year for that.
Yeah.
Our next and final category that we're going to get into for this show is the CEO category, or sort of the business leadership category. The people in this category are CEOs, business types, people who do consulting and things like that in the business space. And I think, this too was one of the more difficult categories to choose from, just in that we had so many incredible business leaders on the show this year.
Yeah.
In the city, as has been the case throughout this introduction. I mean, obviously we could only narrow it down to 3, but I think we have 3, really strong candidates here that we'll go through now. So the first nominee in this category is a guy named Tony Bonaccia. He was the founder and CEO at Small Steps Build Profits. It's a consulting firm, essentially, where he helps people, build their businesses kind of from the ground up, using small steps and setting goals and all that stuff. And his show in particular, I felt like did a really good job breaking things down to very easy to understand language. So if you were, a young entrepreneur, or you're somebody maybe, pivoting in a career and thinking about starting a business or something, I felt like Tony's approach was really, consumer friendly and easy to understand. So I really enjoyed that.
If I remember correctly, he had a whole storyboard set up behind with diagrams and stuff. And I think, isn't he the one that had a restaurant that failed and then kind of started again multiple times? Yeah. Yeah.
And his episode was unique too, because, so many of our guests come on, and especially during COVID, we've been using Zoom and that kind of thing. But if I recall, he was sharing his screen and these diagrams and stuff, and he was showing us some of these tools that he uses. And, like I say, I think it was just very pragmatic advice. I think it was really useful and easy to understand. So I thought that was a great episode. It was episode number 170, if you're interested in checking them out.
Yep. And then next on the list is Bill Coletti. He is the CEO at Kilth, and not Kilth, Kith, Kith. And his episode is 161. And if I remember correctly, it was just a generic, all over the place conversation, just in business in general. And really enjoyed his conversation.
Well, yeah, and I may butcher how he would, pitch his business, but essentially they do sort of risk mitigation for companies. And
he was between two not between two ferns, but
between two palms. That's
right.
Yeah, he called in, I think, from Miami or someplace.
He was at a resort or something, and so the room on the back wall of the room, there was 2 palm trees.
Yeah. So yes, between 2 palms. But anyway, he had spent a lot of time in politics and everything. So it was kind of an interesting guy to talk to this year. Of course, here in the United States, especially, the political situation was hot and on fire for a little while. So it was interesting to hear some of his take on, managing risk in political campaigns. But beyond that, it was, sort of the same principles as applied to business. And so I thought that conversation with Bill was pretty incredible and definitely worth the listen. Our third and final candidate in the CEO bucket, or the business leader bucket, is Kathy Bowman. She's the CEO of the Latitude Group. Episode number 171 is where you can find her. I was just blown away from her top to bottom. She reminds me of, I don't know if you ever saw that series of season of The Office, where Dunder Mifflin had been bought out and they brought in that Southern lady who came in. I think, I don't know why is it Kathy Bates? I think's her name. I can't
remember. Yeah.
Yeah. I think she's the one from Deliverance or something, or she's breaking ankles and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, she's, just this badass female leader, that just kind of doesn't take anybody's crap and all that stuff. And I couldn't help but picture this character on The Office when I was talking to Kathy.
Well, Kathy's from North Carolina, so maybe that's the Southern accent.
Well, I think that was it. But same thing, even just the way she carried herself, her demeanor throughout the conversation, she took command of the conversation and obviously is in command of the work she's doing. And I thought I was pretty impressed by her. So I thought that was an interesting conversation. Once again, that's episode 171, if you're interested in checking it out.
Yeah, I really enjoyed her conversation as well. Just in general, lots of good talking points and a great episode.
Yeah. Well, and in the interest of transparency, I will say that she did send us coffee mugs after her appearance.
You got a coffee mug? What?
Yeah. Oh, and so we got a cool little coffee mug that my wife just actually adores. She loves it. And so anyway, but that didn't score her any extra points here. I was pleased to get it, but don't worry, it didn't factor into our decisions here. So this is a clean game around here. So anyway, but that sort of wraps up the nominees for the Eggy Awards 2020. I mean, obviously this year was, I mean, for lack of a better term, kind of a shit show. But I feel like, as a program, I feel like Eggs really carried, all year. We stayed consistent. We didn't miss a show. I think actually another interesting milestone is I don't believe we've had a clip show this year.
Oh my goodness.
Meaning that we had a basically a live show every show this year. And in years prior, around holidays and stuff, we've always, we were going to be gone for the 4th of July or whatever. So we put together a special of some variety. And I think this year marks our first year where we didn't have one. And, so when you get the Aggies next week, that'll be the first time that we've really shared clips from prior shows. So, I mean, I feel like for me anyway, especially given COVID and just, everything that everyone's going through, I mean, what an accomplishment.
God knows we had every excuse to have a few clip shows, but for us not to, that's actually pretty cool.
Well, and maybe that's a good time too to just kind of point out and say thanks to the people who book guests on the show, who are constantly promoting, representing their talent and sharing them with our show as potential guests. I mean, obviously they're kind of the lifeblood of this show. I mean, you'd get a lot more of me and Mike if we didn't have people sending over guests, and we have a pretty steady flow of people trying to get on the show. And I'm really grateful to not just these people here being nominated for Eggies, but, for everybody who came on the show or had any interest in the show at all. I mean, I'm really grateful for that and really grateful for the organizations who send us guests and potential guests.
Yeah, it's actually kind of humbling to get people, of this caliber wanting to be on our show. It's just weird to me because I'm a freaking DJ. I'm not a business. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, come on, we'll talk some business. But no, it's actually quite nice, and much appreciation to all of our guests and everyone that reached out to be on the show.
Yeah. So the one last thing, and I'm not going to tell you anybody, but I will give you a little bit of a preview for the Aggies program. Also, you can look forward to some additional. We had some shows this year that were just, really stood out. Maybe they didn't fit in a category. So we will have some special mentions and some other miscellaneous shows to share with you as well. And obviously everybody who, has been nominated here or who ultimately ends up winning an Eggy, we definitely recommend you go back and take a listen to their shows, especially maybe over the holiday break where you got a little extra time. Assuming you have a little extra time, over the breaks. Take some time, go back and listen to these shows, especially if you are in business or you want to be, or if you want to write a book, or if you, have financial interest or questions. I mean, this group of people can teach you just about all you need to know. It's a mini MBA all right there on the Eggs show.
I tell you what, that's why I'm still doing this, is because I got a lot to learn, and you don't get to tap into people's knowledge in any other platform. So this is pretty great.
Well, and yeah, I totally agree. And I think one of the I guess most interesting or most exciting things about this is just like having these conversations with people. It becomes clear very quickly just how generous people are with their knowledge and how willing they are to go out and share this stuff. I mean, obviously we don't pay our guests to come on, and there's no, incentive outside of really just wanting to share their message and go out and do the best they can with people. And so, really grateful for them, and also very grateful to Mike for doing the show with me, because it wouldn't get done otherwise. And so
well, likewise, I mean, the whole time I was in Nome, you were kind of, rowing the boat. So much appreciated for that.
Yep. Well, what a year.
Yep.
So, but anyway, so I mean, we don't have a whole lot else for you guys today. We just kind of wanted to give you the Aggies preview show today. Unless you've got any other topics, Mike, I think I just kind of wanted to wish everybody a happy holiday, and hopefully you get a little bit of reprieve. If you travel safely, do your best to stay safe and keep your distance and stay healthy.
Yeah.
Let's do what we can to keep everybody happy and healthy. It's a rough time of year to get sick.
Well, and I mean, like, we almost got together today to do this in person, and it was just like, Yeah, I think we're gonna pass and just do it remote. We've done it all remote the rest of the year, so why not continue the trend?
Yeah, and believe me, I mean, we're going through this too, just like everybody else is, and obviously we know it sucks. Like, I mean, this, it's not ideal to not be able to spend time with one another and do all those things, but nonetheless, we got to be cautious, we got to be careful, and
every year in Seattle, we do an annual Christmas DJ get together, and we all kind of get together and we have some drinks and we talk about venues and this and that, and just all the DJs kind of just chat about how the year is. And this year, yesterday I got a text message at like 6:00. Hey, we're going to do a last minute Zoom call instead of getting together in person. We did a Zoom call, and it was really interesting to get 20 DJs on a Zoom conversation and hear about how shitty this year has been for everyone in the industry. And it was I thought my year was bad, and there were some guys that had a really, really rough year. And so it's definitely been interesting, and I'm just grateful that, we've been able to keep the show going and able to actually, have some good out of 2020, because God knows the rest of it sucked.
Yeah, well, and it's true. I mean, it is interesting what you're saying. I mean, like, obviously you work in an industry that hinges completely on restaurants being open, bars being open, weddings taking place, all that kind of stuff. And, I mean, this year has not been particularly friendly to that industry. And so, it's cool that you guys were able to get together. I mean, it's unfortunate you couldn't, be together for that, but the fact that you still made the time to do it, and, probably helped a lot of those guys to be able to just kind of complain to people who could empathize,
Well, it was actually, that's exactly what I was thinking. It was nice to, A, see their faces, and B, just kind of let a load off and just be like, what the yeah. So shout out to all the homies in Seattle. And I know some of you guys are going through some rough times, and, we'll get through this. And, yeah.
Well, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that, all their hoping and wanting for the vaccine end up coming true, and we can start getting to the other side of this thing, and maybe, I don't know, see what next year looks like, but hopefully it's a little more colorful than this one.
Yeah. Well, one thing's for sure, once it's all over, it's going to be Mardi Gras for 6 months. So
yeah. See, whatever you lost in DJ revenue this year, you're going to quadruple, in a couple years. So
I sure hope so. Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again for everything. Thanks for listening to the show and tuning in every week. We're going to do some call to actions here and ask you to like and subscribe and share this with your friends, because it helps. I guess there's some algorithm in iTunes where if you rate the show and leave us a message, it helps promote it. So we would appreciate it if you would do that.
Well, yeah, and we have a number of really great reviews on there. It always warms the cockles of our hearts to go and read those reviews every now and then. And, 'tis the season for giving. So feel free to give kind reviews, keep the bad ones, send us an email or something if you got to chew us out. Put it on, if you're going to put it on iTunes, make it good, because, that does help us in the algorithm. And obviously we're trying to spread the word here. So the more you can do to contribute to or help us build on the community, we'd greatly appreciate. I mean, looking forward into 2021, we've got a lot of moving and shaking that we want to do. And, we're obviously not going to be able to do it alone. So the more the people who support this show regularly can help us spread the word, we'd appreciate it.
Yep. And side note, we're if you listen on your phone on a podcast, we're also on YouTube. And we're doing this clip show series called Egg Drops, where we're taking clips of our conversations over the year and, points that stand out in each conversation. And we're doing like 2 to 5 minute sections of those conversations, just so you can kind of, if you want the meat of the conversation and not listen to the whole thing, it's there. But go to YouTube, subscribe, and like the channel there as well.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Well, yeah, and I mean, a lot of people I think don't even realize that we actually do have, for most of the shows we do, there's a video component. You can actually go watch our handsome mugs, have conversations with these people. And
Dude,
yeah, so be.
As I've been editing these, I went back and realized how big my beard was at one point, and that was pretty gnarly.
you got full on mountain, man. You took advantage of the COVID beard. It was good. So anyway, well, cool. Well, yeah, no, like Mike's saying, I mean, thanks again so much for everything this year. I hope everybody who celebrates the Christmas holiday has a happy and healthy one. If you don't, whatever, I hope you enjoy whatever you're celebrating or not celebrating. I hope things are going well. I hope you're happy, healthy, and we'll see you all next week for the Eggies.